Welcome back to Rockstock Channel. It is Wednesday, August 13th. I'm here at Kruger National Park. We're just recording a quick intro to the second Metals Company video that we've put together in their strategy day last Wednesday. Metals Company is about a $2 billion market cap. As a reminder, RK Equity is a strategic advisor to and invested in the company. So nothing you're going to see here is financial advice, but I would highly recommend you watch, in particular, all of the discussions with the original investors and the board members and the management. I'm just very impressed with the depth of the team. Gerard Barron, we've interviewed a few people, including himself and Brian Paes-Braga. So enjoy this video, and we'll see you soon. We're at the Whitby Hotel in New York, getting ready for the investor day for the Metals Company, and I'm just sharing a bit of the room here. There are 180 people registered to attend here, and I've just been chatting away with a number of Metals Company supporters. I didn't realize apparently they have a very big stock tweets following, as well as what they're doing on LinkedIn, Twitter, and elsewhere. So I'm going to check them out on stock tweets. But yeah, this is the scene here. All right, here we're in the auditorium getting ready for the big presentation. So this is a pretty cool venue. Of all the places I've seen, like, Livent and Albemarle give investor days, but I've never seen like a theater like this. This is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, you've had a illustrious career. I mean, you only have to Google the name Alex Sparrow to know that he doesn't have to pay for his Beyonce tickets and or his Jake Paul fight tickets, it appears. But I mean, how did we get so lucky?
We'll see how lucky we got, but listen, this is a very unique and interesting opportunity. As I've sort of been drifting out of law towards various business ideas and things I want to do moving forward, this company stood out as unique. It's rare you have something that the world needs that you're attacking in this very unique way, and where there's a moat like this. That doesn't happen very often, and it almost never happens with a management team like you saw, a board like this. It's a pretty rare combination of things. And I think most importantly, your grit and your guts through the last decade speaks to what's going to happen in the decade ahead. And so for me, this is the great new frontier and super interesting.
Good. Can you keep me out of trouble?
Well, the night's young.
No, it's funny that you remind me of the story of how we first connected, because I was a retail investor before I got more involved with the company, and the more I learned, the more fascinated I became.
What's your handle?
Oh, I don't do the twit thingamajig or whatever. Yeah, it's Run TMC, which we'll come back to later. My favorite rap group of the '80s, But no, I'd read some articles about deep sea mining. I had heard of Deep Green when it was private. I work in venture capital, in case that wasn't clear from before. So we usually invest in startups when they're first starting. And over the years, and frankly decades now, I've focused entirely of late, the last 20 years, on big, meaningful companies that will reinvent industries and make the world a better place. And so that's been Tesla and SpaceX and all of the Elon companies, actually this century. And so you're right, that's hard to beat when it comes to entrepreneurial success. But it's had us looking, as I think it has for many investors in different sectors, beyond automotive and aerospace, to say, what are the next industries? Manufacturing, construction, energy, agriculture, where you haven't seen new entrants, you haven't seen dramatic change, you haven't seen reinvention for decades, if not centuries. And this certainly fit all those bills. That plus the contrarian angle, which I like, when there's a sort of bolus of thought that feels like it's going almost like groupthink in the wrong direction. And I've seen that in energy markets, whether it's nuclear versus coal. I've seen that in food markets with GMOs versus other ways of growing crops. And I saw it definitely here in deep sea mining versus Indonesian deforestation. And so that's where I started, was actually blog posting on Twitter. I think you may have seen that. I know Turner saw it out of nowhere. He's like, what is this guy randomly going on about deep sea mining? Because the more I looked at it, the more fascinated I was. So I'll leave it at that to say that's how we started. Then we connected via Sam, and I'm delighted that you invited me to join you.
Yeah. By the way, was that a dip the toe in the water, that tweet, or to see how people reacted?
No, I was just really passionate about it. I try to post something every day. Today I might miss out because I haven't been busy. But I like to do thoughtful, page-long, two-page-long kinds of deep dives into subjects I find fascinating.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Gerard. I'd left the corporate world. I decided I'd had enough and I wanted to do my own thing. And I wanted to work on the energy, anything to do with the energy transition. So my last group CFO of a publicly listed company was for a large renewable energy company. And I wanted to continue that theme, but on my own terms with people I like, on things I like, and I wanted to have fun. And some crazy recruiter called me up and said, Andrew, I know you like crazy people. Most of my friends are nuts. She said, you got to meet this guy. So I met that crazy guy at the end of the row there. Unfortunately, he's Australian, but that's okay. Him and I met Erica as well, and I just loved the idea because I deal with the energy transition, building gas-fired power plants, renewable energy, offshore, onshore, solar, battery storage, ammonia, green ammonia, you name it. But nobody ever looks at the front end of all of that. All of that requires metals in one form or another. So this is a really, really interesting addition to my portfolio of activities. So I advise, as you said, the world's biggest alternative asset manager on their energy transition strategy and implementation. I also advise one of the biggest and oldest and most successful sovereign wealth funds on their energy transition. The issue that they have with and most private equity firms would say this is that what prevents them from getting interested in companies like TMC, which are effectively startups, large startups, is there's technological risk and political or regulatory risk, and those two things are a no-go. We've got rid of the technological risk with the pilot mining test. And what is still out there is the regulatory permitting. So my opinion, as soon as we get some visibility of the trajectory to permitting, that's when you're going to start getting very large amounts of capital being extremely interested in this company.
Yeah. And I guess I hope delivering milestones like we did today, they're big kind of box tickers, aren't they? Because some people would, no one's ever done it before with an ocean-based resource. And of course, there are just boxes you've got to tick along the way to attract the big capital, don't you?
Yeah, they initially when we first started in 2020, after the de-SPAC, I was talking to them, and their biggest concern was ESG and getting it past the ESG, and risk committees and their investment committees. So there was no discussion whatsoever, and that has progressed now to. They're not so worried about the ESG; they're more worried about the permitting and regulatory risk.
They were dark days, weren't they?
Oh, terrible.
Dark days.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. They're coming to help out this scrappy crew.
Yeah, I retired from Bechtel in 2015. I set up an angel capital business. We've invested in about 40 startups, and I invested in Deep Green. And I was asked to join the board of Deep Green, and we were trucking along, and then Gerard turned up and fired me, and then he rehired me. But what I bring is capital project experience. I've been accountable for about $500 or $600 billion worth of capital projects around the world. And I've made mistakes and I've learned a lot of lessons. And what I've learned is for a big investment like this, is there a resource? Tick. Can you extract it? Tick. Can you turn it into a product? Tick. Do the economics make sense? We saw that this morning. Tick. Can we get it permitted? We're making progress. And then, do we have the right team? And I've been around the traps. I've never seen a team like this. The management team is extraordinary. The board is extraordinary. And I'm just delighted to have been rehired. Not that this sticks in my gut. But the other thing I'd say is that anything Gerard says nice about me is because I'm on the remuneration committee. But this venture, why did I invest in it? Same thing Steve said. This is a grand adventure. We're going to change the world. We're going to make it better. We're going to improve the economic future of our sponsoring states. We're going to make money for our shareholders. And there's thousands of data points I could throw at you, but here's just one. I've built nickel, copper, aluminium, that's like aluminum, all over the world. But, Escondida in Chile, which we've built over the years, 100 tonnes of mining stuff to get 1.5 tonnes of concentrate. Here, when we pick up 100 tonnes of nodules, we get 100 tonnes of product. You don't have to dispose of that other 98 tonnes. So I was interviewed recently in the Australian newspaper, and I said I cannot understand why the terrestrial mining companies aren't jumping all over this. And I think I figured out why they haven't, and I know them well. They're doing what they've always done, and they're welded to their business model. And this is going to be like the guy in Kodak that invented the digital camera. And the Kodak said, it'll never take off. And where's Kodak? So this is a grand adventure, and I'm proud to be part of it.
Well, and I'm proud to have you as our lead independent director. Obviously the Hess family have been in the press a lot recently because of your very successful deal with Chevron. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I've had the pleasure of meeting your dad, John, and a lot of similarities, right? And so it was a big financial commitment. What gave you the confidence? And what's it like being on our board?
Yeah, absolutely.
And a shareholder.
Thank you for your kind words, first and foremost. We were introduced by Brian Paes-Braga, who's right there on the side, who you'll be hearing from in the next panel. And he is my partner on anything metals. And we've built a friendship for the last almost 2 decades. And I really trust him. I stupidly didn't invest in any of his early ventures, which I'm still kicking myself for. But he's a great person, and he was kind enough to introduce us, 2 years ago? Maybe 2.5 years ago? And when we met, we had an instant connection. I thought it was very admirable what you were trying to go out and build, albeit challenging. And I was very interested in what you were doing. And the prize is so big. I think that was my key takeaway after the first meeting we had. And definitely legal complexities, definitely operational challenges ahead, but a lot of the risk, as you just mentioned, in my opinion, has now been taken off the table. There's still risk ahead. And so it felt like a very attractive opportunity to jump into, as Alex said earlier, an adventure, but also one that really does change the world. The world needs these metals. The United States needs these metals. And I would say, finally, on why I was so attracted to joining the board and investing in the company was you, Gerard. I think you need the right leader for an undertaking like this. And you live and breathe this business along with Erica and the rest of the management team, which I think you need when you're taking on something so big. And so, yes, our deal closed, fortunately, with Chevron about 2 weeks ago after being in a limbo state for 2 years. And I oversee our investments on the private side of our family office. And this opportunity made a lot of sense strategically for us, not only from an investment perspective, but from the perspective of an opportunity to really roll up our sleeves and try to add value with an incredible management team and an incredible board. Our first official board meeting was yesterday. Alex and I are the two newbies here, and Alex is a very close friend of mine, and we joined together. And a lot of work ahead, but I'm feeling very good about where we are and the prospects of this company. So we're able to, together with everyone in this room, build it into the mammoth that we all know it can be. It's going to take some time, but we're very, very excited about it.
Yeah. I mean, when I look at this crew of people, I mean, we've got keep me out of trouble down the end. We've got Hess Corporation that was started by your grandfather, turned into a $53 billion.
Well, Hess Corporation no longer exists, so Hess Group now.
That's right, yes, but before it merged with Chevron. We've got Andrew, who's built lots of infrastructure. We've got Steve, who invested in projects that turn into real companies. And Andy, who's built $500 billion worth of serious capital projects.
I met Gerard, and he somehow got me on the Maersk exploration vessel to meet the team and kind of see how they define the resource. I saw it right away. I mean, this was a time when critical minerals were not on anyone's radar. I'd experienced in the public markets with the kind of geopolitics around the rise of China and their consumption and relation to Australia in particular, iron ore, copper, et cetera, and invested around that from kind of a macro geopolitical perspective. So when I saw the scale of this resource just kind of sitting there untapped in the ocean, I mean, it just seemed like a no-brainer, and I couldn't believe that this wasn't on the radar of the rest of the world and at a further stage of development. So there was an opportunity to just kind of, I thought I'd dip my toes in, and that turned into bigger and bigger stakes. Through
Funny how that happens.
Yeah, and I don't know. They say great wealth comes from concentration. I'm kind of that mindset. I go all in. It's just my psychology, and it was really, it was a team. Starting with Gerard, and that day I had lunch with Gerard and Tony, 1 hour, and I barely did any due diligence. I mean, I just saw it right away, and but it started with the team, the quality of the team, and Gerard's leadership, and this kind of wildcatter endeavor that sucked me in. It's like it's an adventure. Yeah, so.
Awesome. Yeah. Brian, I think you were just a year earlier, if that's accurate.
Yeah. My journey with Deep Green started at a time when I was running a lithium company, and I spent a little bit of time in Korea. And I remember when I got into lithium naively, I felt like that was the big prize. But as I spent a little bit of time learning about what China, Korea, Japan really needed, it was very clear that lithium was really the tip of the iceberg. So I met Gerard through a mutual friend, Sam Engelbart, and probably like a lot of others that have answered this question previously, just the scale of the project. It was clear that at some point someone was going to need this. The world was going to need this. And growing up in Canada, big resources eventually get developed. That's the reality. The world can say no, or environmentalists can say no, but the reality is big projects get developed. You don't know when, you don't know how, you don't know who's going to do it, but at some point it becomes a reality. And when you align that sort of necessity with a very tenacious individual like Gerard with an infectious spirit, the result is what you're seeing today. With many, many difficult moments along the way, and probably still some ahead of us. But it sure is encouraging to see the Avengers come together here. The American Avengers, the Korean, the Dutch. I mean, Gerard, such a testament to you, my friend. Such a testament to you. Yeah, I'm here, been here for a while. Will continue to do my part the best I can to support you and the mission.
Yeah, and now we're supporting you to grow a royalty business adjacent to us, and we see that as an opportunity of trapping some value for TMC shareholders and also being a provider of capital for us in the future as well.
Undoubtedly. Yeah.
Now, Paul, we're going back over a decade of involvement now.
Yes, I think goes without saying, a lot of my reasons are very similar to those that have gone before me. I was probably just 10 years before most of the people in the room. Gerard and I go back a long way. We've known each other since university days. And I had, at the time that I invested, just been building a business in Australia. So we was very lucky. I'd had a liquidity event and I had some money. So that was what the first thing. There was some money to put into it. And who else would you back into something that was so, at the time, just mind-blowingly life-changing and changing for the universe to some extent. And I think literally at that stage, don't cry. Literally at that stage, I invested in probably Tony, I think, was there at that stage. Was Tony and David Hayden was around. Gerard had already invested. I think there was a PowerPoint presentation and one rock. I don't even know it was a real rock, but it was a rock. So that's what we were investing in, really. Obviously, the licenses were there, and the Nauru country was there, and that kind of stuff. So it was real, but it was just so obvious to me that this has got to work. Why wouldn't it work? Needless to say, a lot of the things that have popped up over the last 10 years or 13 years. Probably we didn't foresee, and we might have been a bit more conservative about that investment. But as these gentlemen, who I'm actually humbled to be on the stage beside, all of you people, have said, you're going to back this guy on this fantastic idea that is good for the universe, and it's hard to argue against it. And all the arguments I see against it just don't make any sense. So that's what we did. And have been loving the journey, the ups and the downs. It's been a classic ride. But this kid here, he milked cows at 14 when his parents weren't able to, and he's come from the school of hard knocks, and I've seen that in his entrepreneurial life before Deep Green, and it was a no-brainer to back it.
Oh, sweet. Oh, thanks, mate.
Amazing things happen when you touch that rock. You just want to invest.
That's right. I have one on my desk too. That's kind of peculiar.
Actually, there's a story on that, if I may.
Sure.
It must have been 2018 or 2019. We got invited onto the late Lucas Lundin's super yacht.
Yeah.
And Lucas Lundin was one of the most prolific resource investors, really to ever live. And I was talking to Lucas about this opportunity. He's like, no, mining on land is hard enough. But then Gerard comes on in his beautiful spirit and gives the nodule to Lucas Lundin, and he wouldn't let go of it. He would not let.
Where is he now?
Unfortunately, he's passed away. Yes. No, his boys are. His family lives on, and they're building some of the largest mines in the world.
Bring them on board.
But yeah, I'm sure they'll make their way. But anyways, it's.
Yeah. He didn't want to give it up, did he?
He didn't want to give it up. That whole lunch, he wouldn't let go of it.
Yeah.
So
it was like, Lucas, you just said no, so give me the rock.
Sorry.
Magic rocks that inspire us all.
Yeah.
So as an investor, we love it when management is invested in the company literally and figuratively, and you are exemplar in that. So first you're a customer, then you're an investor.
Yeah.
Tell us how you got involved.
Well, I backed a buddy of mine was the second employee at Nautilus in 2001, and he sold me on the story, and I said, well, that's amazing. But then he said, oh, by the way, we've got no money. So I funded the early days of Nautilus, and I was growing another business at the time. And so, I wasn't a big investor. I was just a guy who, grew up on a dairy farm and started my first company at university and was building companies. And so that ended up working out pretty well, but it taught me about this. And so when we kicked this business off, I was also busy building another business. And so I said, look, yeah, I'll put some money in, and ended up putting more and more money in. But there was no way in the world I thought I could run it because I wasn't a resource guy. We hired a resource guy. It was a total disaster. And that's when I had to step in, just because all the money went, and because he was running it like a big project. And this is a scrappy startup to a degree, and we still run it like that, and to a degree. But we've just amassed this amazing crew of people. You saw some of them on the stage today. I mean, they're a phenomenal group of people to work with, and that's just a representation of the rest of the team. We don't have a lot of people right now. We're only 43 people, but we're lucky to have partnerships with Edward's company, All Seas. When we had the boat out there, we had another 200. I mean, at the most, we've had 500 people. 200 of them, 220 were at sea, but only 4 of them were ours. So we've been very cautious about, how we invest money, because things change. When you build companies, things go wrong. And the last thing in the world I was prepared to do was to make financial commitments that would hand the keys to someone else. And we didn't want to have a big mining company. We didn't want to take debt on. Andrei has been the most amazing shareholder to have along my side. We have, back over the last years when the share price has been very deflated, we've asked our friends to put in money. But at the end of the day, we just didn't want to raise equity. And so we put debt in place. And Edward very kindly agreed to do that. Andrei agreed to do that, and I agreed to do that. And the basis was that we believed that the equity was heading to a better place. And if we could just run it as tightly as we can, which the whole team helped do, and just use the debt until something happened. And then, of course, sometimes you don't even know what's happening, Steve. And then we had that regulatory, what I can only say was a awakening when Erica and I just thought, what? We have to do something very radical. And luckily, we did something radical, and we were prepared for it. We had the team that we were able to keep together. And there was one, I'm so proud of the fact that we were able to keep our team together, because the temptation would have been to, kill the team off and just put it on care and maintenance. But that would have been the end of the company. And so we fought really hard to make sure that didn't happen. And then, of course, when the tap gets turned on, you can respond like we did today. And I don't think the market has appreciated what we've delivered today, but we have a lot of really talented analysts in here, and they're going to go home and write stuff and judge us over the next 30 days, because that's when we'll start getting really serious investors in. And of course, our biggest fans are in the room here. So, it was really Erica who drove this, saying we need to show more love to our retail, because actually, then we started looking at Tesla, and they've got like more than 1 million StockTwit followers. And, Palantir have more than 330,000, and we've only got 23,000. But what an amazing starting point. And we've got some very special awards to give our 6 category winners. Okay. And the OG winner is... We want to honor that, the best analysis and that analytical firepower, to present Brackets, get on up here, buddy. The statistics on this are quite phenomenal. 144 posts in the last 30 days alone. Do we know? And there's been some amazing runner-ups. Thank you. I mean, it gets better. But the winner is one that I have used relentlessly because it's so beautiful. And it's this one. And there's the Meme King. The Meme King.
Okay, I'm here with Brian Paes-Braga, a major shareholder and former board member in TMC. Can you just give us a history when you were with Deep Green, and also I think you have a royalty on this company and what your plans are for that royalty?
Sure. Thank you for having me, Howard. And it's exciting to be here today and really what is a world's first with the proven reserves coming from Nori-D. And we couldn't be more excited. It's been a 9-year journey for me, being an investor, prior board member, and to see the what can only be described as the Avengers coming together to bring mineral independence to the United States is a very exciting day. And the value creation, I think, for stakeholders as a consequence of these efforts is going to be very exciting.
And Brian, we met, I don't know how long ago, 2015, 2016, when you had founded Lithium X, which ultimately got sold for, I think, 245 million Canadian. And I think maybe you rolled some of those proceeds into Deep Green, back then, or I don't know if your investment was in parallel with that, but you used to work for Frank Justra, I think, out of Vancouver. But you also have, in addition to have invested privately, you do have a royalty, do you not, on Nori-D, or is just describe that and what are your plans for that?
Sure. Yeah, Gerard and I came together in 2022, frankly, during some of the challenging times that the TMC faced, and we spawned what is today the Metals Royalty Company, and the Metals Royalty Company will be going public this fall on the NASDAQ through a direct listing. We recently completed about a $25 million financing for that vehicle, and it has a 2% gross overriding royalty on the Nori concession. And I believe that we have the opportunity to build a really preeminent royalty business in not just the mining space, but specifically focused on American mineral independence.
All right, I'm here as well with Andrei Karkar, a significant investor as well. Both of you, actually, Brian, you participated in the $3 round. Did you participate as well, Andrei?
I believe so. Did I?
I think you participated on most rounds.
Okay, just tell us your background. Andrei, tell us your background generally and how you came to be a significant investor and supporter of TMC, because you were among the financing group, through the tough times, I think, in the loans and other equity stakes. That's when we first started talking. The first video we did, I think, was last year around June, and Craig talked about how the funding was coming from investors like yourself.
Yeah, been around since shortly after Brian joined the company, and through us going public, I run my family office, Eris Holdings, and just got introduced to this company and saw it right away in the beginning, and knew it was something I wanted to go in deep. And it was a time when few of us really got it. Few of us were willing to go all in, risk on. And I just saw the quality of the team, the scale of the resource, how it was good for humanity at large, and just on every level is something I wanted to be involved with, from an intellectual standpoint to the discovery, to the science, to the scale of the development. And it's going to touch everything from basic resources our civilization depends on through autonomy and big data. So spectrum of life and was there for pretty much every round.
Okay, and you don't have a particular time horizon for, or do you have a valuation in mind? Like, what's
Time
your
horizon.
exit strategy? And
There's no exit, and time horizons forever.
okay, developing a new industry here, right?
Yeah,
We're
we're-
disrupting, right?
Look, I guess we're founding a new industry, and I mean the scale. This is equivalent to birth of LMG, and it is a untapped strategic resource that's in the geopolitical state of the world today. It's for this country, it's a matter of national security. It's essential, and it's critical to every facet of life going forward. We'll be, at scale, we'll be the world's biggest producer of 3 of those metals, top 10 in copper.
It's very interesting that, Brian, you're in Vancouver, and I just met with, I think, Steve Jurvetson, who's like a Silicon Valley. He came in this kind of PA. I had seen Jason Calacanis from All In podcast that had interviewed him and as well as Gerard, and just this bridge of Silicon Valley venture capital, because this is a Silicon Valley idea, right? Disrupting an industry, doing something completely different. But Silicon Valley generally doesn't invest in early stage public. They need to have revenue, right? Then TMC became public much sooner. But it's interesting. I mean, you guys have like a Silicon Valley mentality. I don't know. Are you based in Vancouver, Andrei, or where?
I'm based in San Francisco.
Oh, in San Francisco. Okay.
Yeah, my father, he was a pioneer in telecommunications from the 50s, so first generation Silicon Valley. And that was the birth of, the origins of Silicon Valley, but that was manufacturing. So stuff you could touch and feel at the time. That's kind of the environment I grew up around, kind of old and new tech, between industry and new tech unfolding, and but it's been a very tough slog to try and get Silicon Valley with all that capital on board. Now it's starting to happen. I mean, Steve is a indicator of that, and we view ourselves as a disruptor akin to a Tesla to the mining industry, and so I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
I agree. I think also, in my experience, you've got geopolitical shifts that really change capital formation around mineral development. And I think that, and the combination of people like Steve Jurvetson, of people like Andrei, starting to get their heads wrapped around the value opportunity and how how disruptive it can be. You've got really a combination of capital now forming around this, where you've got conventional mining investors seeing the likes of Korea Zinc join the cap table, and families like the Hess family, from a resource development perspective, join as well. You can start to see the writings on the wall for a very fast-paced development, but historically coming from geopolitical shifts that are happening. Now this combination, hopefully, of Silicon Valley getting their head wrapped around mineral development, it's a bit of a perfect storm coming together here.
I think it's just the beginning. I mean, Mark Andreessen has published blogs. It's time to build, and Chamath Palihapitiya has been there. Jim Litinsky, is not exactly Silicon Valley, but he's certainly with the All In podcast and other groups. But there's a lot more to go. I think we were talking about it. I'm 56, and the smartest minds, either went to Wall Street, right, or then they went to kind of Facebook, right. But now, the hard industry, Elon Musk has made it cool to kind of manufacture. But mining has had such a headwind, in America for so long. TMC is disruptive, but I think just overall the MP and the necessity, they're just realizing that just outsourcing to China, for the past kind of 20 years, we're so far behind. But the smartest people and the biggest pools of money in Silicon Valley, are now, they're getting it, right? And I think we're just at the beginning, right? There's a lot more money to come here. And just from you have done a lot on the, Canadian stock exchanges, Brian, but I think, more and more, you just said you're going to list, this other company, in the U.S., the huge pools of capital, the cost of capital is going down for critical minerals as a result of Silicon Valley, Trump, this recognition, so you're going to see more and more U.S. listings, and it's going to play itself out, and I've seen it, every company now used to be like, oh, okay, should I do a list if I'm in Australia, like in Canada, or Canada, should I do a list in Australia? But more and more people, they're coming here to the U.S., and it's because of all these reasons we just mentioned. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate both of your time, and great to meet you both. All right, we're here at the NASDAQ, and we're all kind of like online. I guess I don't know, 130 of us. I've had a great opportunity to meet with so many of these shareholders. They've come from all over, California, Austin. One guy I met from Scotland, and I asked them how they kind of like got involved in this, and it seems like, through Reddit and StockTwits, people like inform them, that this thing was happening. I was just wondering how did you get invited to something like this? And that's how it's done. Gerard, we're here at the NASDAQ. You just had a fantastic morning. I've met an amazing amount of retail shareholders. Please tell us, just some quick takeaways in 2 to 3 minutes. Your thoughts on the day.
Well, it's a good plan coming together, right? Today, this morning, 7 o'clock, we made 2 announcements, mainly around the PFS and the initial assessment over the areas we've made a claim for via NOAA. And of course, what that showed is that there's about $23 billion of net present value combined. And, there were people that said we would never get a PFS over our license area. Clearly that's wrong. We're moving towards production. And I guess that was a big milestone. No one's ever defined a reserve of 50 million tons of polymetallic nodules before. And of course, that's just the beginning, right? That's just step one in a journey, as we shared with people today. This isn't about the life of mine for this project. We can see ourselves into the collection and the processing and then the recycling, the reuse for centuries to come. And so it was an exciting day to pay homage to our retail investors, of course. They're very important to us. And we really wanted to call them out at this event. They fight in our corner. They understand our stories so well. And, it was a privilege to spend the day with them.
Congratulations on, a fantastic PFS. As you said, $23.6 billion in NPV. I think the first stage is $5 billion for the PFS. $5.5 billion. And very attractive IRRs and a long mine life just on that, with low capital intensity. And as I think Craig mentioned, you have a lot of warrants outstanding. The ability to raise capital for the company is very, very high, and you've had a lot of Silicon Valley interest, as well as clearly, U.S. government interest. And I think, this thing is going to get funded, and congratulations on major steps towards inventing a new industry.
Thank you. Well, thanks for being here.
Pleasure.
Well, thank you. And adapt or die. At TMC, it is our mantra, and it's a hard truth as a pioneering company. I last stood here in 2021, ringing the NASDAQ bell with a smile, but a storm was clearly brewing, and we raised far less cash in our listing than planned, raising doubts about our ability to execute our mission. We were held hostage by missed deadlines of a slow-moving regulator, and all the while enduring a growing media onslaught pushed by well-funded NGOs. But look around. The vast majority of this TMC family has stayed together and still fighting because we know the worth of our mission and we know the worth of this company. And over the last 4 years, we have de-risked the project offshore and onshore in the face of financial difficulties and a myriad of opponents. Thanks to the help of our key partners, including Allseas and Careers Inc., we've welcomed American titans to our board. Steve Jurvetson with us today, Michael Hess, Alex Spiro, each and every one leaders in their field. Sell-side research analysts have taken notice of TMC, and coverage has grown from 2 to 8 publishing analysts. And those with ratings all say, buy! And retail investors, once a small band of believers, many of whom are in the room today, have become a global TMC army. Adapt or die. Well, we adapted, and we pivoted from capital heavy to capital light. We pivoted from the ISA quagmire to the existing U.S. seabed mining regulations on the heels of an executive order from the Oval Office. And we often talk about adaptive management system being developed to ensure we operate transparently, responsibly. Well, we have what you might call an adaptive management team, facing new challenges every quarter, shifting gears quickly when needed, because we're not pursuing permits and profits. We're pioneering a new industry that will reshape America.